Eagles impressed you so far?
No, they have not. I'm not pleased with what I've been seeing. When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles right now, they are 2-0. They deserve a lot of credit, particularly losing both coordinators.
Yes.
In the offseason. One coach went to Indy, one coach went to Arizona to be the new head coaches. We get all of that, and so you expected some rough edges. My concern is this. They're up 16-0 in the first quarter against the New England Patriots in the season opener, and they get outscored 20-9 the rest of the way. Last night in the third quarter, they're up 27-7, and all of a sudden, they allow it to become a game. And when you're giving up those kind of leads, and you're making it a bit more interesting than it needs to be, and you see a team like the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC, and you know that the Dallas Cowboys with that defense is coming. I don't like the fact that defensively, they're giving up, or they're not totally, but they're really, really surrendering the cushion that they built along the way.
I agree with everything you just said. It is impressive that they're 2-0, but it's the fact that no matter how they got to be 2-0, you're giving up 326 yards passing per game. Kirk Cousins lit you up. Mac Jones lit you up in the first game. Jalen Hurts turned the ball over twice already this year. 7 games. It took him 7 games to get to 2 turnovers last year. He's getting hit a lot more than what he got hit last year.
Right.
Seemingly the connection between him and A.J. Brown isn't what it was or what they thought it would be, especially coming off the season that they had last year. Right. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about, Stephen A., mainly that defensive unit, because you're surrendering too many yards. And Minnesota defensively, they aren't very good.
That's right.
And they allowed the Eagles to run up and down the field.
Right.
All you have to do is get a stop, give your offense the ball back, because seemingly the Vikes have gotten the rhythm. And they just run dive and go down the field for 75 yards. That's unacceptable on the Vikings' part. I will say this. You're 2-0. You're happy about that. But there are some things that cause for concern if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles.
I want to take it a step further. Number one, it makes me sick to my stomach to say what I'm about to say. But they got me more worried about them damn Cowboys. They got me more worried about them damn Cowboys.
Really?
All right, so I want to get that out of the way. That just makes me nauseated just to say that. But at the end of the day, you can't be getting hit as much as Jalen Hurts just pointed out. You can't be getting hit knowing a defense like that is coming down the pike. Number two, I know you got your money in the offseason, Jalen Hurts, and you deserved it. Proud that you had it. But when I look at him and A.J. Brown getting into it, it makes me wonder, how much work did you put in the offseason together? I know you were working out. I know Jalen Hurts was working out. But how much time did you spend together? You would think the way that y'all were flowing last season, it would only be even better to start off this season. So that is a concern in and of itself. Now, I did like Swift running that football.
Yes.
I did not like their secondary giving up the bomb to Addison. I didn't like them giving up damn near 200 yards to Justin Jefferson, which we kind of predicted. So all of those things have me a bit concerned. It's not, it's not to the point where you're in panic mode, but damn it, I don't like the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have me a little bit worried because of what I'm seeing from the Eagles.
I think the thing between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown would be a bigger deal if they weren't such good friends. Because what I'm starting to see is a reoccurring theme, guys. He did this exact same thing last year. They're blowing out the Giants, and he's throwing a hissy fit on the sideline. He did it again last night. Now, we hear everybody says, I want to win, but I want to win with give me 10, $150, and 2 touchdowns. Now, DeAndre Swift had 1 carry for 3 yards. Was he crying and slinking snot on the sideline against New England? Absolutely not.
But is that a bad thing? I'm asking you, is it a bad thing for the wide receiver?
It's a bad look. Because that's your boy, and you're getting into it with him on the sideline. What happened is that he sees Jefferson going haywire. He got 7, 8, 9, 10. Because I used to tell my guys all the time, don't y'all let Tony Gonzalez show me up in my building. Y'all must be out y'all mind. Y'all better slow him down or it's going to be a problem over here. And so that's what A.J. is going through. Plus, he also sees Smith. He's going crazy. He got football.
That makes sense. So it's much ado about nothing. I want to ask you this, though, Stephen A. You said some concerns with Philly, obviously, maybe with Dallas especially. So where do you have them after 2 games in the NFC pecking order?
After 2 games, I have them number 3 in the pecking order. I would look at San Francisco and Dallas right now. I would look at them as ahead of the Eagles right now by default. Because Dallas only played 1 game, and it was against Saquon Barkley and a bag of chips known as the New York Giants. So we understand that that's not really an ideal representation. But in the end, then when you see that defense and you know what they can bring, Stephon Gilmore's on one corner, Trayvon Diggs is another. Your secondary is set. You got Micah Parkins on the end as an edge rusher with him and DeMarcus Lawrence. They're going to come for the quarterback, okay? And so you know their defense is elite. And if you see the Eagles struggling offensively to some degree because A.J. Brown is not happy, all right? Jalen Hurts is getting hit a bit too much, which brings into question, is he holding the ball too much or is the offensive line just not protecting him? You would know that answer better than me. I'm just saying, those are the kind of things that should have you concerned if you're the Philadelphia Eagles when you know the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys and what they bring to the table defensively.
If Jalen Hurts is going to get sacked 4 times against Minnesota and they can't generate the pass rush like the 49ers, like the Cowboys, you can only imagine. But the thing that they can do, they can run the football. 48 rush attempts, 259 yards last year. That's one way to, last night, that's one way to protect the quarterback. But Jalen's going to have to do a better job of getting the ball out of his hands a lot quicker than what he's done because he's holding on to it, trying to make the big play. The big play will come. But get that ball, because you're going to take hits when you run the ball. Remember, he's a running quarterback. He can throw it, but he runs the ball on average somewhere between 5 and 10 times a game. You get hit on those, and you get sacked. That's too many hits. That's going to take its toll on you.
Shannon, any other teams in the NFC that could sneak in, like a Detroit Lions? Anyone else you have your eye on?
Oh, I like the Lions. I think the Lions offensively, they're only going to get better. Now, it remains to be seen. I like the way they played defensively against Kansas City. I think if Travis Kelce would have been there, if Kadarius Toney hadn't left his hands at home and brought him to the game with him, I thought they'd have been just fine. But Detroit's going to be there when it's all said and done. But Green Bay is a lot better than I thought they would be.
Host the Raiders. Lewis, which team is most likely to start 0-2? Chiefs, Bengals, or Bills?
Look, for me, it's between KC and Cincy. KC worries me right now a little bit, simply because of this. And Shannon, I saw some of your notes. You said you were worried about their offensive line, but truly I'm worried about their perimeter players. Okay, if Kelce ain't available. These guys just haven't stepped up yet. No matter how much you think of a guy like Kadarius Toney's upside, he hasn't proven that, look, Patrick, you can count on me. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to that, combined with the fact that, look, Jacksonville's for real this year now. They are for real. And you know that Calvin Ridley's going to be first-team All-Pro. He's going to be first-team All-Pro. Trevor Lawrence has already taken that jump. Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, these guys are for real. And that defense is coming. So that's one of them games that you could wind up seeing Kansas City go 0-2. Although I'm worried about Cincy a little bit too, because Joe and them, they're not on the same page yet. And that offensive line is still a problem. The defense is going to be straight. But the offense, it's going to take some more time. I'm just worried a little bit about KC. You never bet against Patrick. You never bet against Andy. But it's more about Jacksonville for me than it is even about Kansas City. So could we see KC go 0-2? It'd be a shock to, I think, all of us who love the NFL, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I agree with everything you just said, Stephen. I got the Chiefs because I think the Jags are much better than people give them credit for. And I mentioned, we talked about it early in the year. I said, Calvin Ridley, people don't realize he took that year off with the mental health, and then he got suspended for the gambling situation. So he was away from the game for 2 years. But remember, before he left, he had 1,500 yards receiving. And that's what made it easy for the Falcons to move on with Julio. Because they saw the growth and maturation of Calvin Ridley. So I like the Jags. And as much as I hate to say it, it's because of Kelce not being there. Kelce is like LeBron James. He'll make those other guys better than what they actually are because their focus is so much on Travis Kelce. But Kadarius Toney has to do a better job. Sky Moore, I thought he was ready to take that next step. MVS, I think he'll be okay. But that offensive line, Donovan Smith hasn't been good for years. He's been broken down. And you put him at left tackle to protect Patrick Mahomes. And you get the guy from Jags and you put him at right tackle. And he was playing slot receiver. He was moving so much I thought he was in Canadian football. Because the ball was snapped. Steve, he was already kicking back. They concern me. What doesn't concern me about Cincinnati is that the last couple of times that Joe Burrow has played the Ravens, he threw for over 500. He threw for 480. He has a couple of three big monster games in there. So the team that seems most likely to me to go 0-2 would be the Chiefs.
I'll say this. First of all, it's hard for me to imagine Patrick Mahomes going 0-2. It's just hard for me to do that. I mean, you got to show me that for me to get to that conclusion. I understand Kadarius Toney's got a lot to prove. The way Andy Reid talked about him after the damn 4 drops. Yeah. I mean, he definitely needs to show up. And then he's sitting up there and he canceling his Twitter account, but then going to reactivate it just to go at his old team before deactivating it again. I mean, damn, he's all over the place. Man. I'm talking about reactivate, deactivate. I sound like he a damn transformer for crying out loud. But let me say this to you. I'm going to say the Bengals, and here's why. I know that I don't have a reason to believe that based on Burrow. 3-0 against these boys. What is it, 6 touchdowns, like 949 yards passing, not a single interception. But I will remind everybody, you're talking about the 3 years that Joe Burrow has been in the league. The man has been sacked 126 times.
Boy,
we ain't even counting the amount of times he's been hit. You're talking about an average of 3 a game. Only Russell Wilson has been sacked and hit more than Joe Burrow. I'm just looking at the fact that you still haven't figured out how to protect him. I'm thinking about him being out during training camp and the preseason because of injury, so you had really no opportunity to recreate the chemistry with Chase and Higgins and those brothers that we know you have. Yeah. And then you got to take into account they struggled at the start last year. So it's not beyond the pale of comprehension, the realm of comprehension that you can start out struggling again this year. If you're going to give me one of those 3 teams, I'm going to tell you the team that I'm worried about for the moment is the Bengals, but not long run. I'm just talking about this week.
And the thing that – Look, Cleveland overwhelmed them with their pass rush last week. I mean, Jim Schwartz is a new DC in Cleveland, right? Cleveland has a lot to prove, especially on the offensive side of the football with Deshaun. And Deshaun looked good. Deshaun's on his way back. Right. He's on his way. He'll be all right. Did he look good in one? He's going to be okay. He'll be okay. All right. But on the defensive side, they were hunting Joe now. And, Baltimore can be just as multiple as far as – because all those different hybrid type guys that they got. Those guys who can play in 2-point, play in 3-point, move them around, walk them around. See, that's the kind of thing that could really give Cincy problems now as Joe gets his legs back, gets his timing back. So that's why I could easily see them going 0-2. With KC, man, it's just this. Look,
KC's on the road,
as
though.
Good as down in Florida, too, right? As good as Patrick is, and they're paying Patrick to make other people even better, and he's done it his whole career. But at some point, that's going to catch up at some point. Look, is Rashee Rice right now ready to be really the #1 wide receiver as a rookie second rounder at SMU? Is he going to be that dude? Right. Valdez-Scantling has never been that guy. And I was saying this offseason, Brett Veach has to find somebody that if Travis isn't available, Patrick can go when everything hits the fan, I'm going to throw it to you.
I got a question for both of y'all. I got a question for both of y'all. First of all, let me make this point. Their 2 tight ends, Gray and Bell, didn't look bad in Kelsey's absence.
No,
they weren't the problem. They weren't the problem. It was the wideouts.
They could have easily won the game.
It was the wideouts that were the problem. But I'll ask y'all this. Talking about Mahomes, and we understand that he doesn't have the weapons available to him. Tyreek Hill is no longer there. Travis Kelce was out last game, expected to be out this game. So he's got something to prove. All right, fine. When are we going to talk about Andy Reid, who no longer has Eric Bieniemy? Eric Bieniemy is not there any longer, Shannon. He is in Washington now. He was standing beside Andy Reid all of these years when they were going to AFC Championship games with 3 Super Bowl appearances and winning 2 Super Bowl titles. He is not there any longer helping Andy Reid to call plays. And I think the more the Kansas City Chiefs struggle offensively, the more we got to look at Eric Bieniemy and say, wait a minute. Indeed, he was is every bit as valuable as we thought he was, where he's the offensive coordinator who wins the Super Bowl championship, but the 2 losing coordinators for the Philadelphia Eagles both get head coaching jobs.
Yeah, there's no doubt that as time goes on, if the offense continues to sputter, that conversation is going to get elevated. It's going to get loud. There's no doubt about it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.